Welcome back to Startup Central, and let's talk about a company that, in a way, revolutionized the way small things happen, small services happen. We are talking about home services giant Urban Company that has rebranded its controversial 15-minute house help booking service from Insta Maids to Insta Help now. This after a wave of social media outrage and criticism was there from labor unions. The move came after netizens and worker advocacy groups slammed the original name and company's payment structure, calling it exploitative and undignified. So while Urban Company defended the service as a way to formalize and uplift domestic work sector, the rupees 49 per hour base pay for workers drew sharp criticism. Urban Company has announced the name change on X, stating words matter. And that's why Insta Maids is now Insta Help, because dignity, respect, and progress start with the name and go beyond. Thank you for your feedback and for helping us make this change, Urban Company said. But there are a lot of questions about it. What about the concerns, about the legal aspect? We'll talk that overall, and let's first address the key concerns. We'll talk to our guest on this, and let's talk to our guests as far as this is concerned. And I'll go one by one and ask what are the key concerns they're having and have they registered their complaint with the company. I'll go to Mr. Salauddin first. What are the key concerns there?
Hi, sir. Thank you so much. No, we have to first, we all multiple times we are said, gig and platform workers, not a machines. Okay. Urban Company has made the treat like workers, the high pressure, like high risk from environment. This is not good. Okay. We have, very well the exploitation of the job and insecurity of the social security from the benefits from gig and platform workers. One. And another is export is not a model. This is, the everyday model. Domestic workers has already, the conditions as very poor, and quick commerce model. Urban Company has, the history rating system and high commission and penalties, deactivation. This all thing very well. This is multiple times recently. Urban Company workers and the doing multiple strikes also. No, still no, we have to multiple strikes recently also. Deactivation is the biggest issue in the Urban Company. Okay. And another main, health and dignity. Okay. This is very easy and speedily services. This is the very, the model, whatever the model, this is good or bad. Sometime you can, as a workers, this quick commerce model is Urban Company as whatever the platform has that taken the commissions and everything. The health and dignity is very important. And another thing, workers has regularly consulted with the changes, whatever the deliveries and drivers time, consult from the gig and platform workers union also. Labor rights has, organized a long time, strongly demands from urban company immediately, gig and platform workers, discuss to fair policy. Why I don't know, understand why could take the workers' voice and workers' views. Okay, and another social security is fair wages and fair wage protection is also very important. Fair contract also very important. Addressing the systems or the issues, the Urban Company, you can pushing those who are financially involved in this matter in the streets. This is a very important, the Urban Company is multiple times back to back exploding. This is, not good from the companies and government and organizations also.
Right. So we'll once again introduce our guest. He's Sheikh Salauddin, National General Secretary, IAFT, and founder president, TGPWU. Mr. Salauddin, staying with you, well, if we talk about Urban Company, they are saying they are trying to formalize the sector. From a marketing perspective, InstaMaids was perfect. It resonated instantly with our target audience, Urban Company said. So is this a concern that's the only going to increase with QCOM because labor codes are yet to kick in? And what do you propose to the government on that?
See, first of all, we have to straightforward demand to model of the guarantee from the fair wages from social security, safety working conditions. This first we have to ask to urban companies. Second, government should interfere in this matter. Okay, this is the model is not a good model. Okay, government of India is labor ministry of involved in this issue. And third thing, we strongly social security framework in the domestic work work and the gig and platform workers the implementation before the business model to allow and speedily recently we have speed connect come to the dignity of the gig and platform workers. This is the fair pay, social protection, and the safety environment. This is we have to ask the aggregator companies like urban company. This is possible or not possible, aggregator companies returnly and give the workers. We
Salaudin, for joining us. And we go to our another guest who is going to discuss with us on this topic. Her name is Mitali Nikore, founder and economist, Nikore Associates. Mitali, coming to you first. You have done research as well on this sector. Now, what does it suggest, especially on the wages front? And how is this economically viable for this whole workforce? Also, how do you think it's going to be severe, these issues they can become in future?
Thanks a lot, Shomit, for bringing me into the discussion. So I'd like to start, by laying out two or three very key issues. The first is, a lot of my comments today are based on the research that Nikor Associates, my think tank, has recently done with Jagori, which is a, community-based organization in Delhi NCR, with more than 250 domestic workers, which we have just completed, and we'll be launching, the report next week. And what I wanted to say in this context is threefold. The first thing is that when we look at the average wages that are being paid in Delhi NCR to domestic workers, it's ranging at about 7,500 rupees a month. And we find that domestic workers have a strong preference not to work in one house, but rather they prefer to work in at least three to four houses, because they find that if they work in one house, they become too dependent on, that particular household, and they are actually afraid that they could lose their job anytime. So they also like to diversify between different households. And this 7,500 wage actually translates into a wage rate of approximately 80 rupees per hour, given the number of hours that we are typically finding they work. They work between 6 to 8 hours every day, and they work approximately between 15 to 20 days a month. Now, they also want to work a bit more and they want more flexibility in their work, but that's because they also have unpaid care work responsibilities in their own homes. So now, when we know that the average wage is something like 80 rupees in Delhi NCR, and we know that this platform has the potential to offer them even up to 250 rupees per hour. In some of the ads, they've spoken about 250 rupees per hour. There is clearly, a potential for betterment. But the big questions which I want to raise, which still haven't been addressed, and of course I'm really glad that it was changed from Insta Maids to Insta Help, because maid has a, as a word, is very colonial and has very negative connotations. But the three things which are big questions today for urban company: number one, how do they maintain women's safety? Because we are talking about domestic workers, they are largely going to be women, and going and working in the houses of strangers who, have not been verified on the platform, or there's no safety net in place. How do they do that? Because this is already becoming a big issue, even with the salon workers and the women salon workers who are on their platform already. And in fact, the women salon workers are the ones who are penalized, even in cases when the safety issue and this, when they are in a situation where they are being harassed by the clients. So that's
Right.
number one. Number two is that they have to think about worker rights and worker wages. This 250 rupees that they're advertising,
Right.
how much of that is actually going to go to the worker? Back to you, Sumit.
Right. On that note, I will thank Mr. Salaudin and I will continue with Metali. You now. Metali, so essentially, the fact is that while formalization of the economy in several sectors is needed, but how can workers ensure fair compensation and benefits? Most important, how to ensure that high levels of professionalism are maintained in a country like India?
Yeah, exactly, Sumit. So, these questions of safety, of fair wages, that how much of this 250 goes to the workers. And then the question becomes that, in the event when an incident happens with a domestic worker, currently the protocol at Urban Company is to block her account, is to block and hold her responsible, and not the customer. So I think somewhere, the platforms have to change from being only customer centric to also worker and customer centric. And I believe that there is one very important measure that Urban Company can introduce in this particular domestic workers service, which is to introduce safety clusters. It's very important. So they can always say, okay, domestic workers are living in place X, and there's a colony Y which is close to X, which can be served by the domestic workers who live here. And they can create a safety cluster around this space so that the domestic workers only from this region go and serve colonies which are close by. Plus, they should set up women's safety help desks. And this is very, very critical, so that if a domestic worker or even a salon worker goes to a house and she finds that the atmosphere in that house is not safe, she should be able to immediately press a red button on her app, or be able to press call somebody, an emergency helpline, and a woman from a woman's safety help desk, which is not more than 10 to 15 minutes away, should be able to physically come and help her. Unless this is implemented, I don't believe that this service can be a success. I believe that domestic workers really need this
Right.
service. Even young people really need this service. People like me would love to have this service. But we need the safety of the domestic workers to be, guaranteed.
Right. Thank you, Mitali, very much for joining us and discussing on these important aspects. With this, we have come to the end of this Startup Central. Well, thank you, viewers, for watching us, staying with us, and keep on coming back to us for more news and updates from the world of business and beyond. Thank you once again.